Shalom, family. Hey, just want to be obedient to the Ruach and bring forth another Hebrew word study. Today we're going to be looking at the word BRYT, right? The word BRYT, which is the English word covenant, but the ancient Hebrew mind is way deeper when you look at the word BRYT. So I'm going to give you the Strong's number first. It's the Strong's number 1285, right? Bet Resh Yod Tav, right? Now, the beautiful thing about this this word BRYT, right, is, again, I told you the English thought, which is abstract, would be the word covenant, which ultimately, you know, the simple definition of that in the English mind is a agreement between two parties, right? Covenant, right? It's an agreement, treaty, if you will. But the Hebraic thought goes way deeper, right? So let me give you the root letters. The root letters are Bet, house in, and then Resh, first, beginning, head. So when you put the two together, you get the family of heads, right? Family of heads. And the ultimate thinking of that was in our according to our ancients, right, is that the plant families of grains such as wheat and barley have a cluster of seeds at the top of the stalk called heads. So the top of the stalk was called heads, and ultimately they would feed, or they would ultimately grow grains that would develop into these heads, and these heads of grains were fed to the livestock. They were fed to the cattle, to the sheep, to the oxen, to really all the animals used for livestock, and ultimately men would eat these too. So it was vital for the function of the community. It was vital for the function of everything, because you need all of this for the community to function. You need livestock for men to eat meat, but you need livestock also for them to plow fields, right? So the fields can grow properly. Again, it's just an essential, vital function of how our ancients lived. Because remember, the ground or the land was connected to our culture Hebraically, right? So the Bet Resh, right, the family of heads, that's the root. So the bara, right, if you read Genesis chapter 1, starting at verse 1, it says, in the beginning, Elohim, right? The King James says created, but the Ivrit, the Hebrew, says bara. He fattened. So it's the idea of him starting the beginning, him fattening, taking what was there and growing from the seed that was there, him growing what was the haaretz and the shamayim, right? He fattened the haaretz, right? Now, what's deep about that is, you know, I'm not going to say that he didn't actually physically create it, but that word goes back to this root, bara, which means to fatten, and it goes back to the family of heads, right? So again, it's the grain used as food for man or livestock. Livestock fed grains became fat and are the choicest for slaughters. And the letters for that would be same as the root, Bet Resh, but you would add a hay to that. Now, let's deal with this word covenant. That word covenant, right, in the English mind is the word BRYT. So same root, Bet Resh, but then you get the Yod and the Tav, right? And the Tav represents what? Mark, sign, covenant. The Yod represents what? Hand, work, deed. So when you put all of those letters together, right, you get BRYT. And it literally is instituted, a BRYT or a covenant is instituted through a sacrifice of choice and fatted animal, which is cut into two, and the parties of the covenant or the BRYT, right, pass through the pieces. If one party fails to meet the requirements of the covenant, then the other party can do so unto them what was just done to those animals. So BRYTs, covenants, were life and death, y'all. To our ancestors, to the ancient mind, they were life and death. It wasn't no smooth thing, right? Which is why when you read Deuteronomy 28, you got 14 verses of all blessings in it. You got, you know, 15 through, I want to say like 68 curses. Why? Because it's life and death. Covenants are eternal with the Most High. Man is the one who goes back and disregards covenants and doesn't look at them with this mindset, because we didn't got away from this ancient mind, right? Now, one thing I want to share with you is, if you read Genesis chapter 15, you'll see a functional working definition of this word BRYT, covenant, when Yahuwah went into covenant, right, with Abraham. What did he do? Right? He literally cut animals. He cut several animals. He slaughtered them, and he walked through the pieces as the Most High walked through the pieces. Read it. Genesis chapter 15. Read the whole chapter. Get insight. Get understanding on it. Because this is literally how it would go. Before him, Noah did the same thing. When he made an altar, he made sacrifices to Yahuwah. But again, that was a covenant. Same word, BRYT, that the Most High had with Noah. And that was prior to Abraham, right? Another work, and I'm just giving you working examples of this, right? We got Exodus chapter 19 through 24. If you read that, you'll literally see how the Most High went in a covenant with us after he delivered us out of the land of Mitzrayim, also known as Egypt. But those chapters go into detail on how Moshe and Aaron literally had to slaughter animals, right? The bulls and the goats and the cattle, right? Which, if you're going to slaughter a bull, that's a huge animal. Imagine how much work that goes into that. That's huge, right? All these guys, that's what they was doing. They were slaughtering bulls, bullocks, huge animals. So I'm just saying all this to say, and it was specific things that they had to do with the blood, and ultimately the blood was sprinkled on the people doing what? Installing, right? Confirming, right? Sealing the covenant, right? Which is ultimately why Deuteronomy 28 has those curses in it, because ultimately what did our forefathers do? They went away from Torah. They served other Elohims, which is also why we have the curses on us here in the land of our captivity, because our forefathers went against that covenant. And to take it even deeper, when our Hamashiach was hung, right? I don't like using the word or the term crucified, because really that word is tazlah, right? It literally, anytime you see that word crucified in Brahadashah, it literally translates to the original Hebrew to him being hung. Don't believe me? Read Deuteronomy chapter 21. Because he's the fulfillment of Torah. It wasn't no crucifixion. No, it was a hanging, right? Now, he was pierced, but he was hung on a tree. Cursed is the man that hangs on a tree. That's Torah. So anyway, when that happened, his blood was shed. He was pierced. His blood was shed, right? And when his blood was shed, what was that? That was the initiation, right, of the renewed covenant that Yah promised. Read Jeremiah 31, right? That was the initiation of it, right? Mashiach's blood had to be spilled for it, right? Now again, I'm saying all this to say that's how serious Yah takes covenants. That's how serious it is with him. It's not a game. It's not a joking matter. It's not a light thing. It's a heavy thing. So we got to go back to the ancient mind of what covenant is, and literally walking, living, being in the covenant, right? Upholding it, upholding it to the best of our ability. That's why we need the Ruach, right? So I wanted to put that out there. All those working examples are examples of how serious Yah takes the covenant. It goes back to bloodshed. So I just want to put that out there for y'all. More videos coming soon as the Ruach gives insight. We definitely gonna be doing more of these Hebrew word studies, but what we're doing is we're going hard and giving insight as the Ruach gives it on how to see things according to the ancient Olam path. Shalom, family.